On June 9th, 2025, at 6:03 p.m., Brasília time, Jupiter enters Cancer after a powerful conjunction with Mercury at 29 degrees of Gemini, which ends up bringing important revelations that must be considered emotionally and integrated into our emotional universe. Jupiter is the force that governs perspective. When your life is in turmoil, when you don't know what to do, when you don't see a way out, you look at Jupiter, the official regent of the ninth house. Of course, you will also look at the ninth house on your own chart. When Jupiter enters Cancer conjunct Mercury, he will start another narrative about what your life perspectives are. And it's not enough for it to be just an idea, as I said. It has to be felt, because when you feel it, it becomes part of you. And what used to be just an idea develops magnetism. It becomes a magnetic idea. That's why when we hear about the law of attraction, it says that you have to feel as if it had already happened. Jupiter in Cancer accesses our ancestrality, our origins. And when I say ancestral, it's not just about time, about looking into the past, but it's also about looking inside, at the origin of our own soul. For those who like to work with Akashic records, this transit is the perfect portal because everything can be accessed much more easily. But when we look at Saturn squaring, this means that Jupiter also comes to close some patterns that are still active, things that you can even access in the Akashic records. Jupiter in Cancer is governed by the moon, and the moon is in Sagittarius, is governed by Jupiter. That is, they are here in what we call mutual reception. Mutual reception is when each one is in each other's house. Jupiter is not an accommodating energy. He is not looking for security. And in this mutual reception with the moon, there is a tension between staying in what is emotionally stable, which makes us feel safe, or going out into the world to explore the unknown and risk new things. In fact, we want both. We want to risk, but without losing security. And to reconcile these two energies is paradoxical, because each one pulls you to one side. And here are two of the main risks. The first is to let yourself be neutralized by guilt. You may get stuck thinking like, I want to go, I want to discover, I want to explore. But that would make me abandon emotional responsibilities, contracts, agreements that I have with other people and situations, so that it's best to try to calm down. Well, if you fall here, you deny the portal of your own growth and evolution. You will need to identify whether your fidelity is honored or if it is a force that is sustaining a repetitive cycle where you are stuck. And if what seems honored is precisely the chain from which you have to break free. The second risk is to make drama, emotional drama. It can be a nostalgia, a longing. It can be the feeling of being a victim of the world, or suddenly the memory of a childhood trauma that is still stinging you on the inside can pop up like food that rotted and you didn't take it out of the fridge. Because when that pain, that trauma, remains and stays around you all your life, it ceases to be a pain and becomes an identity. When Jupiter gets Cancer, you have to be aware that the more you make drama of something, the more it grows. Drama always inflates a situation, and this is Jupiter. Inflammation is Jupiter. But even though you are actually expanding something, you are not opening a new path. In this transit, it is very important to mobilize the waters of the body. If you can, drink lots of water and do lymphatic drainage massage throughout this whole transit. When Jupiter gets Cancer, he says, okay, you may have experienced difficult things in your past, but who are you beyond that? And when he asks, he is not disdaining what you may have gone through. He is actually inviting you to understand that whatever it may have been, you are more, you are bigger. For some people, this may be wonderful. For others, this may be an affront. And it may wake up inside a voice that says, "Who are you to come and tell me that I am more? Or that I can do more? You don't know what happened to me. You don't know what I have been through." And if you start paying attention, you will realize how many people have vehemently defend their own limitations. What Jupiter tells you here is that no matter how dark it may have been what you have lived, how much it may have defined your life so far, you are more, you are beyond. So, don't be so faithful to the ideas that you have created about yourself and that determine how far you can go and how much you can achieve, because all those concepts are coming up now to be revised. And Jupiter also says that you have an arsenal of emotions and asks, which are the emotions that you consistently use to live your day-to-day life? What emotions do you normally feel throughout the day? Your most normal, most common routine emotions. And how can you expand this arsenal? How can you include new emotions? This will require discipline at first, but this is the adventure, this is the discovery. As incredible as it may be, feeling happy can be uncomfortable. It can be seen like something completely out of context. Look at this. How interesting. I lived in Boston for a while, and when I lived there, I was a listener to a psychology class at Harvard called Human Emotions, introducing the work of Paul Ekman, who presents 6 basic emotions that define a human being, regardless of race, culture, religion, age, geography. They are joy, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust. If you think of the 6, the surprise one, well, it's in the middle. It can be something good or something bad. And from all of them, there's just one positive emotion. Sure, we can use sadness to process grief. We can use anger to get out of a situation that needs a change. And they can be positive in that sense. But you understand my point. Why don't we have in our basic emotions as humanity? Emotions like gratitude, like enthusiasm, like love. How come that we do not have love in this list? You see, maybe it's time for us to be a minority and honor this place of choosing to feel different than the mass. This is the kind of emotional sovereignty that Jupiter in Cancer comes to ask you. For your emotions no longer to be a reaction to other people's emotions floating in the air, in the environment of your home, your work, your social groups, or any place you're just passing by. Your emotions now shall not be a continuation of what you absorb from outside, because this makes you lose the clarity of what is actually yours and what is others. You must resonate yourself now and be aware, because emotions, especially negative ones, are highly contagious. But so far, ideas are contagious too. Words are like virus that passes through air, through the cell phone screen. And Mercury is highly present with this Jupiter in Cancer, not only by the conjunction that precedes his entrance on the June 9th, but also when Jupiter leaves Cancer on the 30th of June of 2026. He will also be conjunction Mercury, so that through this transit, words and emotions have a superpower to contaminate. And this tells not only the importance of learning to communicate what you feel in an assertive way, but also that this transit will be marked by important conversations and valuable ideas targeting new life perspectives. You must remember that an important conversation is not just to unload whatever you feel. It has a focus, a solution to be achieved, a transformation. Otherwise, it is nothing but a bunch of words inside that creates pressure and needs to be relieved, and then build up again to the same themes. Jupiter in Cancer with Mercury is also the perfect transit for gossip. And gossip that comes filled with emotional load exploding in media, social networks, and families' WhatsApp group. But maybe what is true, we can't call it gossip. This Jupiter in Cancer with Pluto in Aquarius also gives me a feeling like the world out there is pumping with news, but there is so much fake news that I'm afraid to lose the nest for a lie. Nonetheless, the world out there is pulling you, not in the sense of abandoning the nest, but in the sense of the seed that breaks the shell to sprout. And this is a good metaphor. The seed dies when it rots, but it also dies when it sprouts, because sprouting destroys the shell it had. In both possibilities, what it used to be, it ceases to be. Jupiter in Cancer talks about an excess of water, so that women, mainly, can feel their bodies more swollen, their breasts more painful, more sensitive. It can increase premenstrual colic or symptoms. I also saw these days, here in São Paulo, a woman filed a lawsuit, which is Jupiter domain, claiming she had her maternity leave rights denied, which is Jupiter in Cancer, to stay home with her reborn baby doll. This is Jupiter in Cancer squaring Neptune in Aries. She claimed that the baby may be false, but her feeling is not. And this is very interesting because it brings not just a maternity issue somehow distorted with Neptune there, but also the need people may feel now to have their emotions validated, and the idea that others must find a way to accommodate those needs, which is not always possible to happen. And although she claims it is fair because that is how she feels, what seems fair to one may not be fair to another. I also saw these days a post talking about a drug called Kush gaining a certain fame. Neptune is now conjunct Saturn. Drugs are Neptune, and this one has mixed human bones in it, and Saturn rules bones. And fame comes with squaring Jupiter. Considering the tarot, Jupiter incorporates both the Emperor and the Hierophant, the Pope, the archetype of powerful religious leaders. We are now living the idea of the apocalypse, and it makes me think this old saying that says, everyone is an atheist until the plane starts to fall. And if humanity truly arrives at a very excruciating breaking point, may it be by facts or just a psychological break through informations being consistently launched and absorbed by the collective, what can happen is that churches and religious cults can emerge as the voice of hope, unification, and comfort, strengthening religious leaderships, both traditional and the emergence of new ones, that quickly tend to gain structure. On the other hand, when we think of Jupiter as a pope, the Catholic Church is a solar symbol tradition, and Jupiter is in Cancer, which is the house of the moon, the feminine. Perhaps here we have a resurgence of ancient pagan traditions, considering Earth as a sacred being, bringing back the most ancestral roots of humanity and the coming back of the witches. Jupiter trines Lilith and Vesta in Scorpio, bringing a feminine force of great alchemy and a force willing to ignite within each one of us the sacred fire that makes us feel at home within ourselves. And if a revolution is necessary for this, then this is what it will be. This is what Lilith is there to guarantee, that she has a voice that is a voice to be heard. At this moment, there is a tension that does not necessarily reveal itself on the surface of things, but it is there, boiling the waters underneath. Objectively, we cannot yet point out what is, where it is, but something is being activated, something that will change social and individual fundamental structures. And this something is to be revealed at the end of August, a very intense date, because in addition to Jupiter in exact trine with Lilith at 17 degrees and 9 minutes on the 27th, but already considering that on the 25th they will be already in trine by exact degree, Jupiter will also be in trine with the North Node, meaning something is emerging from the shadows to break a status quo, so that the soul can follow the path of its own mission and evolution. This serves both for the soul of the collective, the soul of humanity as a whole, as much as for each one of us in our particular paths. At the end of August, we still have Saturn, Neptune, and Aries sextile Pluto, while the three of them are retrograde, meaning there is something here coming back to the Holophotes, the return of something very, very important with a great impact taking shape. Pluto here is in opposition to Venus in Leo. That is, the individual will end up losing to a greater force. We can think of the fall of a great figure of power within a more complex plot, may involving sex scandals. Jupiter squaring Ceres in Aries can also bring forward relevant questions regarding world food. But the end of August promises a lot of intense turning points. The beginning of Jupiter in Cancer squaring Neptune happens within a certain fog. It is difficult to guess exactly what is happening, but in quincunx with Pluto in Aquarius, we can think the artificial intelligence more and more being integrated in daily life, not only as a technology, but almost as a family member, establishing relationships with emotional bonds. Anyway, I believe that more female leaders can emerge in different social, scientific, economic, and political sectors. And last, I want to talk about another aspect that is very relevant in the entry of Jupiter in Cancer and Yod. I love Yods, this aspect made by a sextile and two quincunx, which we call God's finger. And I'm always studying this aspect, first because astrology taught me that there is no such thing as, this is something basic, I know it enough by heart. The more you study, no matter how basic it is within astrology, the more it opens up other layers. I do not approach astrology as someone who says, this one I know by heart, this is basic. Number. In my view, even after 32 years of studying, I do not dare to say this about anything in astrology. And secondly, because my birth chart has 5 yods. In this one, we have Jupiter and Mercury in the apex, and 2 arms, one with Pluto in Aquarius and another with the moon in Sagittarius. And yod is always a force of tension that spirals in the name of evolution. It integrates paradoxes. It is uncomfortable. It does not let you rest or accommodate. It mobilizes the energies it activates to always be moving you to a higher octave. The beauty of the yod is that it does not follow a linear timeline. It is like a portal that enables you to leap to quantum leap. I associate the yod with Master Yoda from Star Wars because there is a lot of wisdom there. And yod have layers and layers for you to open, to enter, to decode. It has a peculiar strangeness, but every time you integrate the dynamics it brings, you make a leap. So that, if you have an iod on your birth map, pay close attention to it, because there you have a treasure. And look at the math. It is magnific. The yod is made up of 2 150-degree aspects, each and a 60-degree sextile. If you add it all up, you have 360, which is the whole circle of the zodiac. That's why I say that a yod spirals. It spins. It is a restless force pressuring you to go up. So let's put it all together. Jupiter makes the laws. With Mercury in Cancer, it is the Divine Mother bringing a new message to the world. But on one side, it is being tensioned by Pluto, and on the other, it is being tensioned by the Moon. This is a very volatile, very explosive yod. It is volatile because it is charged with a lot of emotional and electrical currents, emphasizing, for instance, that ideas like humanity being exterminated by artificial intelligence can generate a lot of anxiety and panic. Situations that can become out of control, and when at its peak and the world is terrified, a new force arises claiming to be the protector, the savior, and says, "Look, you are all in danger, but I will protect you. I will save you. I know how." And it's said with the same power as a benevolent mother would hold. This is a great power arising. And the embodiment of such archetype, the mother, is extremely powerful and emotional. A mother, whether good or bad, present or absent, is the most powerful figure for the unconscious mind. Once again, narratives now holds extraordinary force of reach. But the ideas that can further spread in the field are those with emotional charge involved. So if you are a leader, your communication will need emotion. It is no use thinking that only information for information will work. It won't. People will only get triggered and moved from emotional inputs. On a personal level, Pluto will access our registers, our memories, and will rip the illusions of the fears we carry, our limiting beliefs about ourselves. This can sound beautiful, but when Pluto and Jupiter say, well, do you know this poor thing that you think you are? You are not. Do you know this impotence that you believe you have? You don't. You are a powerful being, a capable being, so act accordingly, know how to make choices, and stop apologizing to yourself. Get up and go be a king. Go be a queen. Listening to this can be like a punch in the stomach. It's not necessarily a delight, because now you have to assume new responsibilities in the face of understanding your own size. As the saying goes, ignorance is a blessing. And there will always be the one who says, I don't want to be king or a queen. But I'm not talking about ego. I'm talking about royalty, about realness. Realness comes from real. It comes from you being an authentic and genuine version of yourself. You are great. And it is the ignorance of thinking you are small what gives human beings the perfect alibi to be accommodated. This yod comes to take away from you the idea that you are small, that you can't. Now you choose an extraordinary emotion for you to feel, and make it as your crown, and practice to feel this emotion every day, even when it doesn't make sense, even when nothing outside can justify you feeling so. Remember that the greater the crown, the firmer and stronger the head has to be in order to sustain it. Remember who you are.
This is a new channel, and your presence here means more than you know. If this transmission touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Let the Codex reach who is ready.